G'day guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, June the 8th, 2026, and pretty, what would you call it? Well, the right thing that Andrew Maloney, fitting I suppose is the word, is it? Pretty fitting that Andrew Maloney was the last one on the vision there. So what a weekend for Andrew Maloney, unbelievable. It has been a very, very big weekend of fights, hasn't it? A big weekend for Australian boxing, and we now have a world champion, a male world champion again. Since Jai Pattaya was stripped, a couple of months ago, and just still sort of buzzing from Andrew's performance on Saturday night. So I know it was a little bit of a feat to try and watch the fight. I had to do all sorts of things to try and get it. I'm just no good with technology and trying to click on the English thing and then trying to get it to come. I had to put it on my phone because I had to go to work, so it was all happening. But finally watched the fight. I didn't see the rest of the card though. I will say I didn't see the Lewis Neary fight afterwards, but apparently he got towed up pretty good, didn't he? So, but yeah, just an unbelievable weekend. I can see we've got lots of people in the chat to discuss it tonight. And anything else you want to talk about. As it says there, it's Talking Boxing. If you haven't been on the show before, or watched the show or whatever, then it is what it says there, Talking Boxing. And you put your comments in the chat and we talk about whatever you like. Even Zuffa. We had a couple of people upset last week because we were talking about Zuffa, nothing to do with me. I'm just answering questions. So if you want to talk about Zuffa, go right ahead. But I've got a feeling that Andrew Maloney will be front and center tonight anyway. So, all right, what have we got? We're going to start with Asbot tonight. Also, actually, a shout out to everyone that listens on Spotify after the fact, which is good. All right, well, let's get into it. We'll start with Asbot. What do we got? Hard to believe we've only got one male boxing champion. Well, that could change pretty soon, Asbot, because we've got Liam Paro in a couple of weeks. We've got Tim Tszyu, of course. Who knows? We might have George Kambosos. No, Tim's not fighting for a world title, is he? What am I thinking? He's not fighting for a world title, but he's got a big fight coming up. Liam Paro, fighting for the world title. You would hope that maybe it's Jai later on in the year. Maybe it's Tim. Maybe it's Jason Maloney. Maybe it's Liam Wilson. Maybe it's Sam Goodman. We've got a few irons in the fire there, Asbot. But yeah, it's hard to believe we've only got one male world champion, but so many people or males on the cusp, and the girls are killing it at the moment, aren't they? So, yeah, doing great things. We'll stick with Asbot there. What do you got there, mate? I see Big J's got a few comments in there as well, as always. It's good to see you. Good to see you've got the thumbnail there too, mate, which is good. All right, so where's your comment there, Asbot? Just trying to find it there. It's all over the place. All right. Nonetheless, huge shout out to Andrew Maloney. Absolutely brilliant. Well, you nailed it there, mate. It was absolutely brilliant. And, again, just so proud of Andy and what he did over the weekend. So, all right, Big J, what do you got there, mate? Hey, mate, apologies, but that He-Man movie was absolutely garbage. Just awful. Can you get a refund on a free ticket? Well, maybe. Nonsense plot, and the He-Man was terribly cast, wasn't big enough for the role. Yeah, I haven't sort of seen it. I remember they did, was it Dolph Lundgren? Was he He-Man back in the day, Big J? I'm not quite sure, but is it really a story that needed to be told? I mean, He-Man was big when I was about 12. Or probably younger, probably about 8 or 9. He-Man was big, so I'm not quite sure how today's kids are supposed to get their heads around it. Just doesn't make sense. I did see the preview of He-Man when I saw the Michael Jackson movie a few weeks back, but I remember thinking at the time, well, I suppose it looks well done. It's the same thing as you there, mate. I remember thinking, geez, who's this guy? And he just doesn't seem to suit the role at all, does he? So maybe they should have got Hemsworth involved. Is Chris? Which one's the Thor? Maybe they should have got him. But anyway, still with a Big J. If I can find your comment there. Don't worry about the media. Your old mate Big J's got you covered. Had a video out within 10 minutes of Maloney's historic win. It's a bit of a joke on the others. Well, it is. And I said on this morning's video that Brendan Bradford, and I appreciate him watching the videos, but he commented that I think you would have seen it if you're on the YouTube comments, because he commented on there and he said, "Well, sorry mate, I've got the weekend off." What? Since when is it? Well, I'm not going to report an Australian winning a world title because I've got the weekend off. And you would have seen my comment this morning. I said, well, would you have had the weekend off Tim Zhu if Tim Zhu had won the title, or Liam Paro, or whoever? Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it wouldn't have been that hard. Wouldn't actually. Wouldn't have been easy. And I don't want to lay the boots on old Brendan here because he's he hasn't got the right to defend himself at the moment. But wouldn't you have thought that? I know the editors and the bosses and whoever's running the newspapers, whatever, they obviously dictate what goes to print or goes to air, and I get that. But wouldn't you have thought that Brendan or whoever would have said, hey, mate, world title fight this weekend, maybe as the boxing writer for Code Sports, along with Peter Bedell. I'm not sure whether Peter's in there. Give me the lowdown, Peter. I didn't see you write anything about it either. Wouldn't you have thought that he would have said to his boss, "Hey, world title fight this weekend. Expect an article," and the boss would have said, "Well, that's what you are. You're a boxing writer, so I expect it on my desk a couple of hours after the win." But nothing. And worse yet, it is Monday. Monday night here at the moment, and still nothing. Actually, having said that, I'm going to go to the Herald Sun right now. All right, I'm going to go live on air. I'm going to go to, geez, if I can find it here. Where is it? How do I get to? Oh, there it is. Sport, boxing. Let's have a look. Let's hope that they've got something up now. Nope. World stunned by Aussie's fairy tale comeback. The article is written by Fox Sports and just shared by the Herald Sun. So I don't know if it's on the newspapers in Brisbane or Brisbane, Sydney, wherever it might be, Perth, Hobart. I don't care. Is there anything online for Andrew Maloney? I just think it's lazy, Big J. And I like a lot of stuff that Brendan does, but can there be any excuse whatsoever that there hasn't been an article written by the Australian boxing media about this? It's got me buggered. And I said this morning, Andrew actually FaceTimed me yesterday, and I bloody missed it, of course, like an idiot. But I did say that we might get him on here, and Andy will come on, no problem. So we'll see about getting him on. I know he'll have probably 10 people lined up. The same people that gave him nothing in the lead up to it, nothing straight after the fight. They'll all be lining up for interviews afterwards. You can be guaranteed of that. But we'll see if we can get him on. He did say that, but I'm certainly not going to push the point. He's going to get home. He wants to spend time with the family and whatever else. But geez, how hard is it to write an article? Geez, it would have taken half an hour to write an article to put up on Code Sports. Email it in, away you go. Just no excuse. So, Brendan, love your work, mate, but there's absolutely zero excuse for not putting an article on the Code Sports, which is apparently the website to go to now for Australian sport. So, I'd love to hear a retort from you or whoever else. Peter, if you're watching, let us know why there's been no stories. The boxing writers, Australian boxing writers, and there's nothing. Some guy from Fox Sports wrote a quick article, and by the way he wrote it, he's just sort of had a quick skim over it and probably rehashed a few quotes from here and there and just got something up, and all that Code Sports have done is just copy and paste. Bullshit. Anyway, let's move on. Where's your other one there? Big J. All right. The fact that the fight wasn't broadcast is a joke. Well, that's my other argument. I remember when Billy Dibb fought in Japan for the WBC 130-pound title. I'm pretty sure it was broadcast of a footy show fight night. No love for Andy. Well, geez, Lionel Rose and Johnny Famishine and whoever, they fought on TV back in 1969 for the world title. It was broadcast live back in the day. I'm pretty sure it was broadcast. I think it was. I mean, you see the old vision, or the vision of it all. Geez, remember back in 1985, Lester Ellis and Jeff Fennick fought on the same night, one on Channel 7, one on Channel 9. Now with all these streaming services, we've got so-called home of sport in Australia, Fox Sports, and nothing. Surely they could have come to an agreement, an arrangement with the promoter. They just haven't tried. I did see someone send it to me. It might have been Eminem. Thanks, Eminem. I think if it was you, about contacting Ben Damon. He contacted back, said, yeah, well, it's a bit rough, but pretty much along the lines, it is what it is. And no, it's not the way it is. Geez, and I'm not, I always sort of get accused of being against No Limit, but they're in the obviously the back pockets of Code Sports and us, because all the article or all their fights and whatever they do is covered extensively by Code Sports, and we've got an Aussie winning a world title and can't get a look in. It is absolutely ridiculous, and this has got nothing to do with me knowing the boys and formally promoting the boys. It's got nothing to do with that. It's me as an Australian boxing fan saying, what is up, Australian boxing media and TV? Fox Sports. Geez, I've got 1 million channels. How many sports channels have they got? About a dozen. And they couldn't get one of them just to have a live feed. It just blows me away, Big J. And there is absolutely no excuse. Unless one of the executives come out and says, well, we tried, and the promoters said, no, under no circumstances are we going to let it outside Japan. Okay, well, let us know. I want an explanation from somebody within the Fox Sports walls who can tell us why Andrew's fight wasn't televised. When's the last time an Australian fought for a world title and it wasn't televised? Even the girls are on. I shouldn't say even the girls. Of course the girls are on. They're fighting for world titles. Nothing here. It is absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, I'm sure I haven't seen your video, Big J, but I expect that you would have had a rant about it as well. All right, what rating would you give Andrew's win? Although not an upset or fight of the year contender, I'd still give it a solid 7.5 out of 10, considering the travel and major decision victory. Your thoughts? I'd give it a little bit higher than that, BJ. I mean, you got to take in, I suppose you got to take in consideration all the variables of it all. I mean, the fact that, what Andrew had been through, and Willa Baldo Garcia, he was the one that Bam Rodriguez should have been fighting this weekend. This is the fight that they wanted to happen. He was offered 250,000 American to step aside, which is 350 Australian, and he wouldn't do it. So I throw all that in there. The 2 early cuts. Willa Baldo Garcia, I know he wasn't the most skillful guy, but geez, talk about tough and hard and rough. Geez. I'd probably say 8.5, Big J for me, out of 10, considering all those factors. But look, just no matter whether it's 7.5, 8.5, or 9.5, doesn't really matter. He got the win, and that's all that matters. So just an unbelievable performance from him. All right, what's that there about the thumbnail? Was it? If I can find. Oh yeah, again, thanks for the new thumbnail. Ordering a new shirt with a logo on this week. Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, Big J, because I was actually just looking at our page today. We sell the t-shirts and stuff on the YouTube channel. There's a site you can go to on there, and most YouTubers do it. We sell a few here and there, not a lot, but we sell a few. But I looked at it today, I thought, oh, geez, we're not going to be selling many of those going forward, because it's all different logos and stuff. But yeah, all good, mate. I really like what the Chat GBT did with your logo, and yeah, it would make a really good t-shirt there, mate. You're gathering momentum out there, mate. Well, what are you? An influencer, a YouTuber, whatever, a reporter? What are you? I suppose you just old mate, Big J. So good on you, mate. All right, who we got? Shadow Boxer. If I can find your comment there, mate. I know we will eventually get to the end of them. All right, and then get into some sort of normality. All right, I knew Andrew turned down the step-aside money, but I had no idea it was 350K. What a legend to back himself saying no to that massive chunk of change. Well, it would have been hard, Shadow Boxer, because I know that it hasn't been easy for Andrew. It really hasn't. And I remember being over in Las Vegas when he fought Nakatani, and just talking to Chelsea, his wife, and was over there with the kids and all that sort of stuff. And it's been tough for that family. It really has. He hadn't had those big money fights. Something always seemed to come out of the blue that derailed his career. I mean, he should have probably fought Bam by now. And he had the Franco fights, and then the Guevara fight, and the Mexican fight that fell over last year, and then after all that to be offered $350,000. I mean, is it life changing? Well, maybe not, but I just really applaud Andrew for saying, yeah, it's a massive amount of money, and it would have been hard to turn down. But he's like, no, I don't know what he got paid, by the way, but I'm assuming it probably would have been a third of that. But he's thought, I'm going to back myself, I'm going to win the belt, and I'll make that other couple of $100,000 up somewhere else. So, look, a massive risk taken by Andrew, because if he had a loss, it probably would have been career over. And that's why I think he was so ecstatic His team was so ecstatic, and it was probably a fair bit of relief in there as well, but also a bit of pride and just satisfaction, I suppose. But just so happy for Andrew, knowing that what he's been through over the journey. I can see what it meant to him, and just really, really again proud of what he's done for himself and Australian boxing. All right, where are we at? Back to you, Big J. All right, to be fair to all the journos out there, they all have bosses to answer to. If those bosses ain't interested in a particular event, regardless of the passion, it won't get covered. Well, if you've got a boss or an editor, whatever it is out there, Big J, and you have someone win a world title and you say to a reporter, don't worry about it, then what sort of job are you doing? You should be out of a job. Now, here's something for you as well. This has got nothing to do with this person in question here. This is a story written by Brendan Bradford. This is the June the 7th. So what was that? Yesterday. June the 7th was yesterday. There was an article about, where is it? About groundbreaking boxer. This is the quote. Groundbreaking Sydney boxer Tina Rahimi. So she's making a hugely anticipated professional boxing debut. All right, on the Tim Tszyu Errol Spence blockbuster card on July 25. Nearly 2 years to the day since her Olympics ended, and she questioned whether she wanted to keep fighting at all. That's a great story there, Brendan. It really is. Great story and whatever. That's awesome. She went to Olympic Games, all the rest of it. That's fine. You've taken the time, it was posted yesterday, to post a story about this Olympic boxer who hasn't fought in 2 years is suddenly going to make her, well, quote unquote, much or long anticipated foray into the pro ranks. What did I think I missed that? I messed it up, didn't I? A hugely anticipated professional boxing debut. Now, no disrespect to her. Was it Tina Rahimi? I remember seeing her at the Olympics. But I'll say it again, Big J. If the editor's saying to Brendan or Peter or whoever, it's all right, mate, don't worry about it. It's your weekend on. Your weekend off. Don't worry about it. We'll address it. Hey, it's Monday, and it might be a public holiday, but stiff shit. So, it is what it is, but I just, in this day and age, I mean, the TV could have a million reasons why it wasn't aired, but there is absolutely no reason that there wasn't even an article about it. I did see someone sent me a message today saying they saw it on the Channel 9 website or something. That's great. That's great. Bit like, on Fox Sports, whatever, just a quick article. I'm talking about a proper news article by Australia's boxing media. But anyway, I'm going to move on because someone's going to say, "Oh, just get over it." Whatever. Okay, I'll move on. You can see I've been in the YouTube business for it's been about nearly 5 years now. I'm used to I can sort of read the comments that are going to come my way. So, but you got to have thick skin, don't you? It's all good. All right. Where's your thing? Oh, yeah. I myself pushed T Street to do a video on Maloney's win. He said, despite the victory, it doesn't move the needle even to warrant a video. However, we will mention it in our next podcast this week, and that's fine. What is it? The T Street controversy, I think, isn't it called? BJ? I sort of don't watch it, but that's fine. I mean, if it's a boxing. I'm assuming it's just a boxing side, or is it just a sports side? I don't know. But if it's just boxing, well, internationally, it's not a big deal. I mean, there's been plenty of fights probably over the weekend that Australians don't give a toss about, and that's fine. I'm not talking about overseas. I'm talking about in Australia, and every day there seems to be an article about Tim Tszyu and, geez, look at all and I know it's different, the publicity that Nikita got against Michael Zarafa early in the year. Geez, wasn't even a title fight of any note whatsoever. I get that's a big Australian fight, but I'm just using that as an example. Anyway, I'll get over it. I'll jump off my soapbox because someone will be telling me that I'm having a bit of a cry, and that's fine. I am. All right. Let's go to Drew. Where are you, Drew? What do you got there? Congratulations to Andrew Maloney. I thought he would lose and his career was finished, but I'm glad I was wrong. A great tale of persistence and hard work. 100% right there, Drew. Yeah. Well, I didn't think he'd lose. I sort of, well, it was always a possibility. I knew the fight was going to be tough, but I just thought if Andrew did pretty much what he did, and that was sharpshoot from a distance and don't get dragged into a dogfight. I thought he'd have the precision and boxing skills to get over Bordeaux Garcia. But again, I was really nervous after the 8th round. I really thought that Andrew was starting to tire and was starting to feel the effects of a really tough fight. And all of a sudden, Bordeaux Garcia must have been told by his corner that he was behind, because he just came out and just went for it. And I thought, geez, it's 4 rounds to get through here. Is he going to be able to do it? We've seen him in the past against Joshua Franco when he wilted and got dropped in the 11th, and was pretty lucky to see the final bell. That's the fight I was thinking of, but he dug deep. And after that 11th round, no doubt in the corner, they would have said, you have to win this round. And you can just see that determination on his face, where he went out there, won the last round, and that ended up winning him the fight. So, yeah, I'm glad you were wrong too, Drew. I'm sure Andrew would as well. All right, just have a drink there. All right, I'm not really too surprised at the non-existent coverage of Andrew's win. Let's face it, outside of the Zoo darlings, nobody's getting coverage. Jai couldn't even get a mention as champ pre-Zufar. Yeah, well, it was a common thing, wasn't it, with Jai as well, and Liam Paro to some extent, until he actually signed with No Limit. Then it all changed. And look, this is not all No Limit's fault. Again, I probably seem like I'm having a crack at No Limit. I'm just using them as an example. It's not their fault that the media just covers all their fights. There's obviously an agreement there between, well, with what they do with Fox Sports and Code Sports and everything else. There's that there. You can see that. But is it too much to ask? Just an article. Would have taken 10 minutes to write. Anyway, I will move on. Where are you there, mate? All right, there's not even any point in making any noise at the lack of media coverage in Oz for those who deserve it. It is zoo tunnel vision by a group of corporate suits who lack knowledge and vision. Well, I think that's where we're at, Drew. And I think, look, my personal opinion, looking from afar, when it comes to boxing coverage in Australia, when it comes to Fox Sports and probably Code Sports, and this is not to do with the reporters here. This is not Peter Bedell or Brendan Bradford or anyone else that works for Code Sports, even though you should have wrote an article. I'll keep going about that. But what it just shows is that the suits, as you called them before, you call them the corporate suits, whether it's for both of those, it's like, all right, well, let's just cover the main part of the sport and all the stuff below it. Let's just, we've got to make room for AFL and rugby league and basketball and cricket and swimming running when the Olympics are coming up. So they're the sports that matter. And when it comes to Fox Sports, I've still got no doubt, even with the Fox Sports and No Limit contract, that the suits would have just said, geez, who's out there that's doing good things? No Limit, just give it to them. This isn't a way too hard basket here. Instead of giving all promoters an even go at it, and I know some promoters have done maybe some dodgy things in the past that didn't help, but they've just said, look, I don't want to be dealing, I'm talking about the head guy, I would have said, well, I can't be bothered dealing with all these promoters and working out who to give shows to. No Limit look like they're on doing good things. Excuse me, just give it to them and then be done with it. Give them all their shows. Then Eddie Hearn's come in. He's obviously pitched a really good spiel to them, and they've said, all right, well, he's obviously got the runs on the board, so we'll farm out a few to him. And I wouldn't be surprised if No Limit actually said, look, we don't need and want all the dates. We're struggling to fill it with content, which is bullshit, because they should be able to, with the keys to the Ferraris, I always say, should be able to have a monthly show, no dramas whatsoever. But I've got a feeling that they've just said, now, that is it. That is it. And same with the newspaper. Look, just cover the main stuff. If there's no room for it after a big weekend of football or whatever it might be, just cut it out. No need. That's the impression I get. As long as Timmy Zoo and Nikita Zoo and all that are in the news, that's all that matters. And again, this has got nothing to do with the Zoo boys, by the way. Personally, it's not their fault that they're getting all this coverage. And it's almost like, make sure you get the Zoos in. Oh, and don't forget to mention Michael Zarafa, because that'll get clicks. And I'm sick of hearing about Michael Zarafa. Not in general, just in regards to this whole Zoo fiasco it's almost become. So that's my sort of opinion on the way the media is working at the moment. Boxing is one of those things where it's so far down the pecking order. They're only interested in the big picture stuff, and all the stuff underneath it. It's like, look, we'll put it in if we've got time, but our resources got to be put into those sort of main sports that's in this country. And don't worry about it. All those YouTubers and people like me will talk about it. I was actually surprised this morning, pleasantly surprised. I was listening to SEM. Actually, it might have been yesterday. No, was it today? Whatever it was, but SEN here in Melbourne, Sports Network, Sports Entertainment Network, SEN, and actually had a caller come in, and it was things about what we might have missed. And someone actually called in and said, hey, there's been no mention of Andrew Maloney winning the world title on the weekend. And I can't remember, I think it was Sam Edmund here in Melbourne said, oh, geez, that didn't know about that. Obviously, that's great. We'll try and give that a bit more coverage later. I didn't listen to it all day. But so it's out there, but the SEN guys didn't even have a clue about it. This is the Sports and Entertainment Network, and I probably didn't even know who Andrew Maloney was. Now, I know there's so many sports in Australia, and even though it's called the Sports and Entertainment Network, obviously when they say sports, what they really mean is AFL, NRL, the NBL, and cricket and Olympic sports when that's on. That's really all that matters to those networks, isn't it? So, but it is what it is. But they have got tunnel vision, Drew. And look, it is what it is going forward. We can't do anything about it. It just gets or sort of was a great on me, I suppose, when they just it's one thing to not give them or to give them a little bit of coverage, but it's another thing to not give them any at all. I remember even was it a couple of years ago or 4 years ago or nearly 5 years ago actually when George Kambosos beat Teofimo Lopez in New York. That got next to no publicity either. And I remember and it doesn't surprise me, but in that year's performance of the year, I've said this on here a couple of times, George Kambosos wasn't even nominated for performance of the year or whatever it was, and they gave it to the Olympic team who come fourth. That's Australia for you. We'd give it to a team that come fourth, and I'm sure if the Matildas had been that year, they would have got in front of George Kambosos, who won the undisputed world lightweight title and didn't even get a look in for a team that finished fourth. Try and get your head around that. Just because, the Boomers, geez, well, they almost got there. They performed better than they ever had in the past, so we'll just give it to them. Not to mention you had a guy go over there who had no right to be anywhere near winning that fight and came over so much, got over so much adversity to win those belts, I thought at the time. So anyway, I can continue to piss and moan, but it just pisses me off. I get it. It's football season and everything else, but geez, it's not that hard, is it? Surely. All right, Big J. All right, what do you got? You're going to call me out on what? It's just my pound for pound list, is it? Okay, what do you got? I've got to call you out for your pound for pound list. How in any world could you have Huni above George Kambosos? Despite a year of inactivity, Huni could only dream of what Kambosos has achieved. Huni ain't done nothing yet. Yes, Big J, I do take that on board to some extent, and I did think of that exact thing you're talking about there as I was doing my list. But there's a lot of criteria involved. I mean, you look at George Kambosos. 5 years ago, he had that win, great win that it was. He's won 4 out of 6 since, 4 out of 6, and been dominated. I think he been stopped twice. I think he has in that time and lost 4 out of 6. Okay, Huni sort of hasn't done nothing yet. He did fight Fabio Wardley, of course, and should have beat him. I know you will say, yeah, but look what happened to Fabio Wardley and whatever. But Huni has coming off a really good win over Fraser Clark as well. I know he's not exactly, up the top of the rankings, but I think if you've got to balance them out, you've got to look at who's actually, we're talking about pound for pound fighters at the moment. And I know sometimes you've got to take in resumes and everything else. It's a really complicated thing to do. Don't get me wrong. But George Kambosos, looking at it as it is, has lost 4 out of 6 and hasn't fought for 12 months. You had Justice Huni, who's been super impressive in his performances, has been pretty active as well, on the verge of a big fight or two, you would probably think. Look at where they are in their careers as far as their prime goes. And I just think Justice Huni at this stage is a better fighter. But does it come down to who's the better fighter or closer to the peak? Or the resume? I'd like to have a bit of a balance of both, but I did think of that. I just think George, it looks like he's going to fight again, but again, hasn't done anything for pretty much 5 years. And Justice Huni I think he's firing all cylinders at the moment and could land a big fight soon. So I get where you're coming from, and it was considered, but I still put Justice Honey in front of George at the moment because, again, 4 out of 6 and hasn't fought for a year. All right. I'm just looking at... all right. Hang on. Where are we? I'm just trying... Actually, I'm going to go... All right, I'm just going to go to the comments here, and they're going to be a little bit out of order, but I'm going to be constantly looking at my phone, so we don't want to do that. All right. Where are you, Drew? This is in response to Asbot, so apologies, I haven't seen the first comments, probably a little bit down the track. I agree with you. All right, so you agree. I'll try and get that comment later. Unfortunately, if they don't want the Jai smoke, this is obviously about David Benavides, they aren't going to worry how they look. The extra pressure on David would be triple if Jai didn't go to Zuffa. Okay, sorry about that. I'll have to get to that comment as we go. All right. Easy to say in hindsight, but if Jai had have just stayed out of the Zuffa rearm, I honestly think we might be looking at Jai versus Benavides as a real or very real possibility. Bivol or Beterbiev next, just or not Noel or just Noel. Yeah, look, it's given David Benavides a bit of an out, Drew, if I'm being honest. Look, and I'll say it again, David Benavides isn't scared of Jai Pataya. He's just not. Elite fighters like David Benavides don't get scared of fighters, like the Canelo thing. Canelo wasn't scared of David Benavides. It just didn't make sense to him at the time. Just like with Benavides, he's probably thinking, well, geez, it would be a really tough fight, and I've got no doubt that the people will want to see the fight. But at the moment, he needs to build his profile a little bit more, and he probably sees himself as a level or two above Jai at the moment because he's now a 2-belt champion. But it has given them a little bit of an out. Now, if Jai still had that IBF belt right now, and Benavides had the other 2 belts, and the WBC still held by Noel Michelanian, he might have entered the equation as well. But at least Jai would be in the conversation. It wouldn't give Benavides the ability to say, nah, he's with Zuffa, we're not interested with him. He would really be starting to feel the pressure of the weight of the fans saying you have to fight this guy. Now, he might have gone to Michelanian first and tried to maybe see if Jai maybe went in another direction or whatever it might have been, and then maybe looked at him when the pressure got too much to turn his back on Jai. But now it's just giving him an out, and he's taken it. And he doesn't seem to be too interested at all at the moment about talking about Jai, does he? So we will see going down the track. But Jai, unfortunately, is given Benavides the ability to, I won't say duck, but just tiptoe around him at this stage. So, all right, Drew. Although I don't agree with using Zuffa as a get out of jail free card. Oh, hang on, is that? No. Unfortunately, Dana has given the Benavides team the ultimate excuse by saying Zuffa don't need the sanctioning body. Yes. Yep, just what I said there, Drew. I agree with you there, mate. Where are you there? I've gone through those comments. I think we're almost at the end of these there, guys. So we will now be back on track. All right. What do you got there? This is about my pound for pound list. All right, completely agree with Maloney at number 3. However, if Liam loses to Crocker, surely Maloney goes to number 2. 100% Big J. Yep. I was that close to putting Andrew at number 2, but I just thought, well, Liam hasn't really done a lot wrong, and he's got that big fight with Crocker coming up. So I thought for now I'll just keep them where they are. But yeah, 100%. If Liam loses to Crocker, well, Andrew's number 2. No dramas. And doesn't it sort of fly in the face of a lot of people? I think I got a lot of flack from people saying that Andrew shouldn't have even been in the top 10 at all before this fight. When I always had him at 6, 7 or whatever it might have been. 6, 7. I know that's probably coming. I always get caught out as well. I don't even know what the hell that is, but there it is. Had him at 6, 7. And always people say, nah, he's had it, he's passed it. He shouldn't be in the top 10, blah, blah, blah. Well, now he could be number 2. So that's how quick he can turn. But I don't think he's ever lost his ability, Andrew. He's just needed the opportunity to shine, and he got it on the weekend and showed us exactly what he's got. All right, explicit, changing the subject. Let's talk about Zuffa 7. The prelims were air, but the main card was omnifarious. I'm assuming that means good. Clark comeback after 2 knockdowns and stopping Massey. Aaron Sutton dislocating his arm mid-fight. And Smith-Riziki hot war. I didn't watch the Smith-Riziki fight explicit. I didn't watch those other fights. It was a little bit early in the morning. And And you only watched the main fight. But what a cracker! What was it? They call it like a Rocky type of fight. I wouldn't sort of go that far, but it was a ripper. And Rozicki retiring after, was it the 7th round? I think it was. And Chris Bellum-Smith proving he's got a bit of ticker. And in my opinion, he'll be next for Jai Pataya, I would think, for the Zuffa belt. I'm intrigued by what Dana said about, does Eddie know where the AJ Fury will be? To call Eddie and ask him who negotiated the contract. He also said, and looked like an idiot in front of everybody. Yeah, we just said, congratulations, Eddie. You've made yourself look like an idiot again, I think was one of his comments. Yeah, well, because if obviously if you follow boxing, you know what's been going on. Eddie Hearn said there's no way in hell that Dana White will have anything to do with the AJ and Fury fight. It's not in any of the contracts. So he will not be playing any part in that fight. But Dana, who looks like the was it the cat that swallowed the canary, as they say, he's saying, yeah, well, let's give it a time. Let's see where we're at in another 30 days. He said, does Eddie know where the fight is? Because he said, I do. And Eddie wasn't involved in any of the contract talk. So you've got to, I suppose, take Dana at his word a little bit, I suppose, that he wouldn't be so smug and confident about it and talking about it the way he is if it wasn't correct. So he obviously knows something that we don't, and more importantly, that Eddie Hearn doesn't in regards to the negotiations here. I would have thought, though, that obviously Eddie and Frank Warren don't want Dana anywhere near this fight, and they obviously promote both guys. So obviously in this instance here, it's Turki Al Sheikh behind closed doors, who has obviously said to Dana White, you're going to be headlining this like you did the Canelo and Crawford fight last year. And obviously hasn't had the conversation with Frank or Eddie to tell them or let them know. So I've got a feeling that Turki Al Sheikh has said to Dana, you will be headlining it or fronting it like you did Crawford and Canelo. And he just hasn't gotten around to telling Eddie or Frank yet. And don't forget, without Turkey's money, the fight probably doesn't happen. So if Turkey says to Eddie and Frank, hey, just toe the line, do what you're told, you've got your fight, you've got your money, but my man Dana's going to be fronting it, that's not going to go down well, is it? But that's the impression I get by the tone that Dana White is taking in this whole thing. So Eddie will not be happy if that's the case. What do we got there, mate? Do you follow the amateurs or amateur fighters like Abdulmalik Kalikov? No, any of those names, mate, I don't, mate. I must admit, I don't follow the amateurs really at all anymore. When the Olympics are on, of course, I'll watch that. I used to follow the amateurs pretty religiously back in the day, but not so much now, mate. So I'm probably at the age now where I'm only after the greatest hits, the big headliners. But back in the day, I used to follow amateurs and all the pros and watch every single fight on every single card, but it's just too hard these days. So, no, I don't, mate. So, explicit. Do you think Shalom puts on better shows than Zuffa? That's what Eddie said. I reckon he'd go close to explicit. I still don't know what all the fuss is with the Zuffa shows. I don't know how Dana White gets up there and puffs the chest out and says, yeah, our shows are this and our shows that. I actually agree with Eddie Hearn. He said, well, what is it? What's the vision? A grey mat and the fighters having to wear generic shorts and trunks. Shorts and or trunks and gloves. So I agree with Eddie in that respect. Now, the big test will come later on when they get out of Dana's basement and go to the big shows. And even this show on the weekend, I think Eddie had a crack at, was it Johnny Nelson over there who said, oh, no, I think it was about 6,000 people there. And Eddie said, yeah, try again, mate. The venue only holds 2,000. So Eddie's all over it over there. But, yeah, look, I am with Eddie. I just want to see what's going to happen in another sort of 12 months, I suppose, when they get out of Dana's basement and we see what they've got on the big scale. Look, anyone can do the shows they're putting on at the moment. I mean, this is the biggest show in front of 2,000 people. Well, yeah, ho-hum, I suppose. That's your big show. And the other shows are normally in front of a few hundred people in Vegas. So for me, the big test will come is when they get out, and don't count Canelo and Crawford. That was a ring event. Dana pretty much had nothing to do with that except be the front man, I would have thought. So I want to see when they get out of there, and it is a Zuffa mega card at the T-Mobile Arena or MGM Grand or wherever it's going to be. I want to see what they've got. And if they roll out the model they've got at the moment, I'm just not that excited. I mean, imagine if they get Shakur Stevenson versus Devin Haney at the T-Mobile Arena and they've got those generic trunks and and gloves on a grey mat. I mean, I suppose we don't care. We've got the two of the best fighters in the world locking horns, but yeah, I want to see what the vision is from Dana White, because so far, I've said numerous times, it's no different to a Pro Box card for me. And we see what's happening with Pro Box. Not looking good for Pro Box. I know Zuffa's got a lot more money behind them, but yeah, I'm still very underwhelmed by the Zuffa product. The fights have been good. The cards have been good. But apart from Jai, there hasn't been one card that I've been like, oh, wow, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And what a card, and what an event, what a matchup. Just, okay, what's a fight card? Good, evenly matched fights, that's great. But where's the razzmatazz? Where's the fireworks? That's what I want to know. So this thing that we're all supposedly going to know in 30 days and to judge them then, that's what I want to see. And he said, don't judge us until January 1st, 2027. They've got 6 months or 7 months, whatever it is, to get there. Where are they at? That's what I want to know. Because so far, I think you'd all agree, the fight cards have been okay in isolation. It's a fight card with well-matched fights. That's all I see. I don't see a revolution or the future of boxing and the boxing entertainment and creating storylines. What storylines? What the hell does that even mean? Creating a storyline. It's like assistant WWE. I know they do it to some extent with the UFC, but creating storylines create themselves. They don't get created by the promoter. They create themselves over the journey. You know, the Hagler Leonard mega fight that had taken 10 years or 8 years, whatever it is, to get there, had the storyline over all those years of fighting the other kings and other fighters, and it just crescendo. Well, this one quick big crescendo into the super fight in 1987. That was the storyline. That didn't need to be put together. It just did it itself. So this whole thing about storylines with Dana, well, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So you can probably tell I'm not a massive fan of Dana, but I am. I love what he's done with the UFC and the way he runs it. I just don't want to see it in boxing, if I'm being honest. I really don't. And as much as there's been a lot of flack thrown at Oscar and Frank and Eddie and Bob and everyone else, and even the sanctioning bodies, I want to see it continue. I really do. I know the New Age fans probably differ. They probably love the whole Zuffa concept, but I want to keep it the way it is, if I'm being completely honest. So, all right. All right, explicit. If Ryan was signed as Zuffa, I think Ryan versus Ben would have been on Zuffa / Paramount, Sky, etc. Yep. Instead of on likely Ring and Netflix. Yep. The idea that big fights wouldn't happen on Zuffa doesn't make sense. Haney and Shakur. Let me read that again, then, mate. So if Ryan was signed as Zuffa, Ryan and Ben would have been on Paramount or Sky instead of Netflix. Yeah, it's a good call, explicit, but look, end of the day, I don't care where it is. That isn't a Zuffa fight either, really, is it? Ryan Garcia is not signed with Zuffa. It's a ring event. So again, put Zuffa to the side, because even though Conor Benn is a Zuffa fighter, it is a ring card on Netflix. So it's not a Zuffa event. So I don't want to hear Dana saying, oh, look at this big fight we've got coming up between Ryan Garcia and Conor Benn. It is not a Zuffa event. It is a ring event on Netflix. So that's why I said anyway. And look, not to say the big fights aren't going to happen down the track. I've got no doubt they will. But at the moment, I mean, just in my opinion, Dana hasn't shown us shit. He really hasn't. Again, it's just a pro box type of event. Nothing out of the ordinary from what we've seen from everyone else. So I'm looking forward to this big surprise he's got coming and what he's got planned for us boxing fans. But geez, his idea of vision and big things might be a hell of a lot different to what we as fans probably expect. And he's got some work to do, I would think. But so far, as I'll say it again, he hasn't shown shit. All right, sweet as. Hi, Lynden, your thoughts for Bam Rodriguez fight this weekend? Already top 3 pound for pound and only 26 years old. He's sensational to watch, so skillful, and seems like a switched-on, respectful young man as well. Yeah, he's all that sweet as. Oh, look, I think he'll take care of Vargas pretty comfortably, mate. Look, Vargas is an okay fighter. He's tough, like all those sort of fighters are at that weight, but Bam Rodriguez is something else. Top 3, 4, whatever he is in the world, pound for pound. I mean, he's a great fighter, and I think he'll show it again. I did say this morning that It is for the WBA full belt, just in time for the fight this weekend. And it's just comical that the WBA up until the weekend didn't know, well, the promoters and fighters didn't know whether it was going to be for the WBA title a week out from the fight, if you can believe that. So, yeah, and I think Bam Rodriguez wins the fight, Sweet As, pretty comfortably, and then hopefully fights in a way next, or even better, goes back down and tries to unify against Andrew Maloney, and Andrew gets his payday. But if it's not Andrew, then it will definitely be in a way you'd probably expect. So, all right, Lob93 would love to see Eddie Hearn make a play at having Maloney defend his title in Australia. Mandatory is Sicko, whatever his name is there, who just beat Charlie Edwards, would be a great way for Matchroom to shake things up. Could be, Lob, because Andy isn't really signed with anyone at the moment. Not obviously with Tasman, that's Jason. He's obviously not with No Limit. And not with Zufar, as far as I know, not yet anyway. So it would make sense, Lob, because Eddie Hearn, he wants to put on fights in Australia. Wouldn't you think that, I know I've gone over this numerous times, that No Limit would say, hey, this suits our model perfectly. We'll take it before Eddie Hearn can get his hands on it, and have an Australian promotional company promoting Australians in world title fights. That would be great. And we'll put it on in Australia, because I'm pretty sure Andrew is a free agent. So now he's got the belt. It does make sense, Eddie Hearn, to put him on one of his pay-per-views here in Australia. So, yeah, it's a good call there, mate. I agree with you. G'day, Carl. Yep, congrats to Andrew Maloney. Asbot, there seems to be growing negative sentiment towards Benavides. He and his dad are starting to lose the PR war. His dad lost me by criticising Jai. Yep, as I said earlier. Not to say David's scared of Jai, but he's just using the opportunity to tiptoe around Jai, and the fans aren't stupid. There's a lot of them that are, but the majority of them aren't, and they can see what's going on here. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever, including the Zuffa thing, why David Benavides can't fight Jai for title. Of course, maybe, unless the WBA and WBO, WBA and WBO, say to Benavides, if you fight him, we're going to strip you just like the IBF did. Well, I could probably see that, but they haven't said that. So if David came out and said, oh, look, I'd like to fight Jai, but I've been advised if I do fight him, I'm going to be stripped of my belt, I think we could all say, okay, then, all right, we don't like it, but we accept it. At the moment, he's trying to run Jai down with he hasn't fought anybody and he's a bit chinny and he can't punch and all this bullshit. Well, prove us wrong. Show it to the world. Take him on and show us what you're talking about. But at this stage, doesn't look like he's going to. I hear you, but politics aside, folks are sensing Benavides is reluctant to fight Jai after years of criticising Canelo. He's now being held to the same standard, as he should, Asbot. And we've all seen it. For years, he was at Canelo about ducking him and saying he couldn't understand why professional fighters didn't want to fight the best. And he wants to prove he's the best, and Canelo should man up and stop ducking and fight him. And you know, I'm a warrior and I'll do this and I'll do that. Well, Jai Pattaya stood up and said, all right, tough guy, let's go. And David Benavides as well, you know, like stuttering, you know, like, hey, mate, spit it out. Not probably so much David, but his dad is. Just spit it out. You don't want to fight him at this stage. And all you have to do is really say, well, as I said about maybe getting his belt stripped, but just say, hey, look, until this Zuffa mess is sorted out, we can't fight Jai. We don't want to fight Jai. We don't want to have the same thing happen to us. And I think we would understand that. But we're trying to say that Jai can't punch and he's a bit chinny and hasn't fought anybody. That just makes you look stupid. So there's lots of little outs he could have used, but they've probably used the wrong ones, and that's what's got the fans up in arms at the moment. All right. This is Polly the Farmer. How are you there, mate? The Neary Casemiro fight turned into a bit of a fizzer. Pretty short odds, though. That between those two, someone was missing weight. Neary had zero punch resistance due to the state he was in. Yeah, well, I think Lewis Neary should be at the point, Polly, where the sanctioning bodies or whoever, well, probably the sanctioning bodies, should be saying to someone like Neary, you have worn out your welcome in that division. You've for too many times you've put the promotion at risk and the fights at risk and everything else. You now must go up a division because we will not sanction a fight with you involved in it at 122. Is he? Hang on, no, he's 115, 118, whatever it is. But whatever weight he was supposed to be at, It should have been, well, the sanctioning bodies now will no longer sanction him at that weight. It's an easy way to kill it. Him doing what he's doing. It's the fourth time, I think, in the last few years, 5 years, whatever it's been, that he's missed weight and really made no effort to make weight. So I think that's the easy way to do it, is by saying you're no longer allowed to campaign at that weight. You must go up. We won't sanction any fights with you going forward. Easy way to do it. Excuse me. Down the wrong hole there. Sorry, guys. All right. Having the weekend off, quote unquote, as a sports journalist. Am I missing something here? Yeah, no, you're not missing anything, Ada. I've had my say about that, so I'll move on. But, geez, fair dinkum, just shake my head. Glenn, how are you, mate? What do you got there? Notice you mentioned Aaron Nabel this morning. Knew him well. Me and the Cowboy trained his nephew for his first 10 fights. He was a hell of a nice man and a fantastic boxer. MND is evil. Yeah, and what a game it was today, too. Melbourne beating Collingwood in front of 90,000 at the MCG. Just unbelievable. Yeah, I did mention Aaron Nabel this morning, mate, and I did say that he beat my brother at the 96 Australian titles in Melbourne, and he won the best boxer of the tournament there as well. And Johnny Lewis had massive plans for him, but for one reason or another, Aaron didn't really have the fire to go into the pros. Or did he have pro fights? No, he didn't, did he? Maybe I'll have a quick look. He said his first 10 fights. Is that amateur or pro? I don't remember seeing too much about him after the Australian titles, if I'm being honest. But where is he there? No, hang on. No mention of him in the pros. So, yeah, he was super talented though, Glenn, and his brother Matt Nabel is obviously the former rugby league player and does all the voiceovers for Fox Sports and Fox Footy and Fox League and all that sort of stuff as well. So, yeah, it's a shame, Glenn, and it is evil. And Neil Danaher, who got this movement sort of going, is branded it the Beast, and that's sort of what it is. There's no cure for it, although they are getting closer apparently with all the money that's been tipped in. And is it Jai Arrow, the rugby league player? He was at the MCG today, and he flipped the coin for the game and went down the slide as well into the ice water. So yeah, all thoughts and prayers go to Jai Arrow and everyone that's suffering from the disease. It's a shocker. It really is. But the spotlight has been well and truly put on it. Now we just have to make sure that now that Neil Danaher is gone, we don't lose focus and interest in the cause. We have to keep it going because this could affect anybody out there. So, and you're right there, mate. It is evil. And Aaron was a fantastic boxer, mate, for sure. All right, Paul, how are you, Paul? Happy birthday to you, mate. Something completely off topic. Jeff Fennick, your idol, our hero, is not in your great intro start to your show. Ooh, you had to add him in with the Samart Payakaroon uppercut on the ropes. Good call, Paul. It's funny because I was going to do a new intro, and I've had it on the books for the whole year, on my to-do list for the whole year, and just haven't got around to it. And one of those clips is Jeff Fennick against Samart Payakaroon, mate, that uppercut. Yeah, so I might have to do something about that. Who else did I have on there? I think I might have had... I'm looking at the screen recordings now. It might have been a bit of Barry Michael and Troy Waters and that in there as well, but we'll update it anyway, mate. But you're right. Good call. No Jeff Fennick. That's sacrilege for our most successful fighter of all time. All right, sweet as. The winner of Floyd Masson versus David Nyika in August should be fighting for the vacant IBF Cruiserweight title before the end of the year. So if Floyd wins, he could be another Aussie world champ in 2026. Now, is he technically an Aussie, sweet as? I'm just asking the question. I'm pretty sure he's a Kiwi. Isn't he? That's just based himself here. I don't know. Is he a naturalised Australian? I don't know. Not to say there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying I'm pretty sure he's a Kiwi that lives here, or has he switched to an Aussie now? I don't know. Either way, I mean, I'm a big Floyd Masson fan, and I'll be hoping he gets over David Nyika, who's also a great guy and a very, very good fighter as well. But I'll be pulling for Floyd Masson. But you're right, if it is the case, whether it's Australia, New Zealand, we hopefully we'll have another IBF or world champion down this part of the world. So it should be a ripper fight though, that Masson and Nyika, and I'm tipping Masson to get over the top of Nyika in that fight. All right, what is going on with the AJ and Fury fight, or should I say Dana versus Eddie? Who is promoting the fight? Should it be believed that Eddie doesn't know the location of the venue? Interesting times. That's from Ali Ugas. I'll call you Ali. Yeah, well, this is the question, Ali. At the moment, I think all is to be revealed. Dana White obviously thinks he's going to be fronting the show, and Eddie Hearn's pretty much saying, "Well, it might not be me, but it definitely isn't going to be Dana. I can assure you of that." So, as I said earlier, I've just got a gut feeling that Eddie is about to have a bit of a or a rude wake up call when Turkey Al Sheikh summons him in for a meeting or a Zoom call or whatever it might be, and says to Eddie and Frank that Dana White is going to be headlining or heading this promotion. I could see why that'd be a real kick in the guts for Eddie and Frank as well, particularly Eddie, to have Dana White, of all people, be the head of the biggest fight that Eddie's ever been part of with any of his fighters. So, but yeah, the whole Dana versus Eddie thing, I think it's entertaining at the moment, but it does tend to get a little bit cringed every now and then, Ali. But yeah, I've got a feeling, as I said, that Eddie's about to get not the call that he was wanting when Turkey says that Dana's going to be the man to take care of this promotion. What's that, Ado? Neary got knocked down 5 times prior to finally getting KO'd in round 4. He clearly didn't show up and said he was far from 100% in an interview today. Well, don't fight, Neary. You didn't make weight. Don't fight. You know, this whole hoodwinking the public out there and the promoters by agreeing to the fight, not making weight, and then just getting beaten up over. I thought it was 4 rounds. Yeah, I thought it was 6 knockdowns. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He got stopped in round 4. So yeah, a little bit of just taking the money and running, I think, Ado. All right, Ali. Been seeing in articles the Zoo Spence card is the best ever assembled in Australia. Do you think this is the case or just PR spin? I think it's PR spin there, Ali. Let's have a quick look. There's no real fights on there yet, is there? As far as I know, it hasn't been announced. Tim Zoo, where is it? As far as I know, there's no fights left, is there, or that have been mentioned? No. Oh, that's interesting. Jamal Charlo, he was put on there the other day. He's now gone. So it's only Tim and Errol Spence that are on the card. The card you're referring to there, Ali, the reason why you've read that is that there was talk that Nikita might be on the card, Jamal might be on the card, and no doubt there'll be some Aussie stars in there. Although most of the other ones are on the Liam Paro card. But I would say they might get Sam Goodman on the card. That probably makes sense. Maybe, well, they haven't got the rugby league players, have they? They're on the Liam Paro card, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Goodman's on this card. But Jamal Charlo and possibly Nikita. Now, Nikita won't be on the card. He'll do his own thing. And as I said, Jamal has been taken off the box rec. He was on there the other day. He's been taken off. So read into that what you will. Yeah, I don't know, Ali. I've got a feeling. I just don't think there needs to be a massive card assembled. I think if they had Jamal on the card, that doesn't matter who he fights. That's going to be a big tick for the promotion. Sam Goodman on there as well, and then just maybe a few 4-rounders and a couple of 6-rounders, whatever it might be. I think that's going to be enough. People are going to tune in to Zoo versus Spence. That's the fight. So I know, again, I'm old-fashioned, but back in the day, you didn't need a stacked undercard. As long as the main event was massive and a huge fight, the undercard sort of it was just there. Whoever fought. Don King used to put on some great shows back in the day, but I don't know whether the new age fight fan just expects a stacked card all the time, but just me personally, I couldn't care less. If Zoo fights Spence and they put a few prospects on the undercard, I really couldn't care about it at all. Look back, 10 years, 11 years when Mayweather fought Pacquiao. Probably one of the worst cards you've ever seen, ever. But do we care? We're all there just to see the main event. So I did see that, though, Ali, but I doubt it. How can it be the biggest card ever when you haven't got some of the best fighters on that card with him? And as I said, Nikita's not going to be on the card. I think that'd be a bit awkward for everybody. So the only other one of any note would be Goodman and Jamal. Does that make it the best card ever assembled? Yeah, I don't think so. I'll tell you what, back in the day when Jeff Fennick fought Azuma Nelson in Melbourne, now that was a card because you had, hang on, I'll just quickly type in that we had Spike Sheeny was on the undercard, Virgil Hill, Costa Zoo made his pro debut. I don't think it was actually a big card, but it had some big names on it. Sorry, guys. I'll just have a quick look here. 1992. So that was a big card for Australian boxing. So at Fennick and Nelson, we had Spike Sheeny against Alberto Cortez, who ended up being a pretty good fighter from there. Virgil Hill, Costa Zoo, and they had another heavyweight fight there. I just want a quick look at Alberto Cortez. Pretty sure he fought for world titles. So anyway, but he fought Spike Sheeny. That would have to go close. But anyway, there's been a few big no limit cards over the journey as well. All right, Bill. All right, I'm pissed. Didn't know he was fighting, and today nothing on social media. Tim Nikita, fart, or guy painted fingernails, cry at Olympics, it's gold, but Maloney's, Cambosis, Jai, and especially Jai, get nothing. I'm with you, Bill. I'm with you there, mate. But it's not going to change anytime soon, mate. It is what it is. I'm pissed. I like it. All right, 8-0. If Maloney was a disabled transgender, it would be front page news. This is the state of the Australian media these days. Yep. He just needs to change his last name to Zoo at 8-0. That's all. Andrew Zoo. There you go. Problem solved. And again, I'm not having a crack at Nikita or Timmy. It's not their fault. But I just think the Australian media just needs to have a bit of a look at themselves, and not maybe the reporters themselves, but the editors. They need to be educated, I think. They need to be educated about, there are other fighters out there, some pretty good ones, and they're fighting for world titles. So, maybe we should cover them. David says, I would laugh at that comment if it wasn't so true. Yeah, it's a good call. What's that, Mark? Geez, you get wound up about the Maloneys. They're the size of early high school students. That's why they get no attention. He won't have it long if Bam wants it. Mark, I get it. Look, if he fights Bam, okay, he's going to be up against it. The size of the guys, what's that got to do with it? Back in the day, Jeff Fennick was an absolute national hero. Lionel Rose, Johnny Famechon, same weight, bantamweights. And Andy's a super fly, but Jason's a bantam. Back in the day, Jeff Fennick, yeah, as I said, was probably the biggest name in Australian sports at the time, and he was a bantamweight. So I don't really agree with that. Yeah, I do get wound up about the Maloneys, but it's not just about the Maloneys, though, Mark. It's about the whole thing in general. It's got nothing to do with the fact that it's just Andrew Maloney. I said the same thing about George Cambosis and Liam Paro to some extent. No coverage. That's what I'm saying. It's okay. I've got a history of the Maloneys, but it's got nothing to do with that. It's Australian boxing only focuses on a very small portion of the market, and others get left out. It's the same as the girls. Desi Robinson, next to nothing. Some of the other girls out there have get all these stories written about them and all the social media coverage and everything else. There is certain media sites that don't even really give her a mention, and they parade the other ones around, every time they fight. So yeah, it's not about the Maloneys, mate. I do get wound up about the situation, not necessarily about the Maloneys. And yeah, they are small, but that shouldn't matter whatsoever. So, all right, Robert. Are we permitted to celebrate the decisions of one sanctioning body whilst criticising the decisions of another? Example, Robert. Let us know, mate. What are you saying there? Is this maybe celebrating the decision of the WBC to, well, what are they doing? They haven't really done anything whilst criticising the decisions of another while we've criticised them a lot. Give me some examples there, mate, and I'm happy to comment. Oh, there you go, Big J. You beat me to it. Here's an interesting one. Yep, Jamal Charlo is no longer listed on the undercard on BoxRec. Also, didn't that Zarafa Eubank talk go quiet quick after he nominated himself for Charlo? Possibly, Big J. Yeah, it's a little bit of a theory that might have a little bit of weight. I think my personal opinion is that Zarafa Eubank talk went quiet because it just wasn't getting anywhere. I think they've been trying to get the funding and everything else, but I've said here numerous times, I couldn't see how any government organisation would have funding for Zarafa Eubank. It brings nothing to the economy. Nothing. Okay, you got a few Brits coming over. That's great. They might put a few bucks into the coffers of businesses in Victoria, but that's about it. Certainly nowhere near what they're going to have their hand out to get in return from the government. So I reckon that's why it's gone quiet. Big J's, because they just don't have the backing they're after, and they're probably trying to work it out. I'd be staggered, mate. Well, I'd be staggered in two ways. I'd be staggered that No Limit would allow Michael Zarafa back on the card, but I'd also be staggered if they didn't. When you think about it, you put Zarafa on that card against Charlo, that adds a massive amount to it. I just don't know about the money. Zeus Spence is a very, very expensive fight. If Jamal Charlo fights Colin Mazzudia fights for probably 20 grand, 25 US, whatever it might be. Charlo probably fights for 100, 150, whatever it is. It wouldn't be a lot. Maybe, I'm just sort of guessing, of course, but it'd be a very cheap fight. If you suddenly get Charlo in there with Zarafa, that becomes a very expensive fight because Zarafa would know his worth to some extent and he'd want some good coin to fight Jamal Charlo. And I wouldn't blame him. Of course, I'd have my hand out the same way. But I think that's why I don't think the fight will be on the card, Big J. It does make sense, and I understand that No Limit would go, oh, wow, I imagine having Zarafa on there as well and let bygones be bygones as far as everything else goes, because business is business. But, again, it would be expensive, and I'm just not sure whether they'd have the budget to do that there, mate. And no drama with Jamal Charlo being on there against an Aussie because it's cheap. But, yeah, yeah, who knows what's going to happen. It'll be something way out of left field. You can be guaranteed. I can tell you. G'day. I gave him $1. Yes, hit the like there, mate. Thank you. Big J. Noel was offered $5 million by Zuffa to fight Jai and probably half or less to fight David. What would you do? Personally, I'd do the Riddick bow and dump the WBC belt in the bin and take the $5 million from Zuffa. Well, we don't know that for sure there, Big J. I think we're all sort of guessing at that. I did read something along those lines, but I think we're just guessing. $5 million to fight Jai. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to fight Jai. Well, having said that, they gave Conor Benn $15 million, didn't they? So what does Jai get for fighting? Probably 3 to 4, I suppose, being sort of the A side, and Noel having to go to Zuffa, maybe. But the fact that he'd have to give up the WBC belt, he'd lose all his leverage if he fought Jai about a potential David Benavidez fight. Look, anything's possible, Big J, but who knows what's going to happen, mate. I'd be surprised if Michelanian gave up his belt to fight Jai, even with the money, because Jai is not a massive name and he'd lose his belt. At least with David Benavidez, it's a massive, massive fight for him. Would they only offer him half of that? I don't know. What's that, Mr. Gentleman? Here's the real question. What's that? How do you keep your glass looking freezing for so long, and what beer is in there? Also, why is No Limit not letting the public know the venue or may boycott it? What glass are you talking? Are you talking about these here, mate? How do I keep my glass looking freezing for so long? Well, it's not frozen there, mate. But anyway, no beer. All right, the other question, why is No Limit not letting the public know the venue? Good question. I look, obviously they're trying to negotiate the terms, but geez, we're only, what is it today, the 8th of June? What are we, 6 weeks away? I would have thought they would have had a venue sorted out before they actually even announced the fight. Surely that's almost the first thing you do. Well, after the boys sign on the dotted line about the country it's going to be in, and maybe even the city, then you'd have the venue ready to go. I mean, they've had, a couple of press conferences and still nothing. I have heard it's Sydney, Mr. Gentleman. I have heard 100% at Sydney. Well, I won't say 100, but because anything's possible. But the source I was told from was very, very reliable and said it was 100% in Sydney. So what are they waiting for? They're either able to get the venue or they don't, or they can't. So yeah, your guess is as good as mine, mate. But obviously there's got to be a reason. That's probably it. But 6 weeks, people have got to organise time off and hotels and flights and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Normally No Limit are pretty organised when it comes to this. So there's got to be something that we don't know about that's just holding things up. All right, Ali says, agree with you, Reed Dana. To be honest, all we have seen him do is talk and hasn't followed up with anything. The only item of note he's done is ruin Opetaia's ability to unify the titles for their own belt. Yep, that's all they've done, Ali. And again, as far as I know, Dana White has not said anything about the Jai Opetaia situation and what they're going to do. He's pretty much just let Jai sort of hang out there by himself. Mick Francis to some degree as well, and he hasn't said shit. So I've got a feeling that's because he doesn't give a shit. I think his whole motive is to say, well, you signed with us. You got the Zuffa belt. Now just shut up. I don't give a shit about your IBF or WBC belts. That's my impression. That's what I see from Dana White, that he would not care about what's going on with Jai. I think that's the type of guy here that he is. It's all about the organisation, about the brand, not really about the fighters. It's more about what the fighters can do for the organisation, not what the organisation can do for the fighters. That's 100% the impression I get from Dana, and that's UFC as well. A bit like the WWE. The UFC to me has always been like the WWE for real, like the reality type of WWE. WWE, of course, is entertainment. The UFC is the real deal, but they're run the same way, and that's probably why Dana likes all these storylines and all this sort of stuff. So I just don't think he gives a toss about Jai or any of the fighters. They're a commodity, and what can they add to Zuffa? What can Zuffa get out? Get out of them. And I don't think it's about developing the fighters. I don't think it's about supporting the fighters. I don't think it's about getting behind them and anything like that. It's like, no, you're a commodity of this company now. You'll fight him, and on this date, you'll get paid this amount. It'll be for this belt or whatever it might be, and just shut up and go and train. We'll see you a couple of weeks before the fight. That's the impression I get from Zuffa. Now, that might be wrong, but that's what I can see from afar with how he runs his business. There's no emotions involved. It's that you work for us, you're getting paid, so just shut up and do what we're telling you, or what we're paying you to do, and fight. Make sure you're in shape. And if you don't want to fight him, then you're out. That's the way I see it. All right, Drew. Nobody, not even Dana, has provided a definitive roadmap for the future benefits that Zuffa can bring to boxing. Judges at the end of the year is hardly a vote of confidence given its current status. And that's why if I was a fighter, Drew, I wouldn't be signing anything at the moment. No matter how I was looking in my current situation with a promoter, whether it be Oscar or Eddie or Frank, whoever, or Bob, I wouldn't be doing anything at the moment until that roadmap you're talking about there is a lot clearer, because it's not clear at the moment. All we've seen so far, apart from these little club shows he's put on and this one in England on the weekend, is the confusion about Jai. We've seen him lose his belt and no clarification about that belt, no standing tall and beside your fighter from Dana at all. It's just been, what's my problem? He's got the Zuffa belt. Who cares? That's his attitude from what I can see. And you're right about this whole judges at the end of the year thing. Well, all right. Well, what are we exactly supposed to judge? Is there going to be a massive Allegiant Stadium supercard with all these new signings? What is it? It's got to have to be something pretty substantial to outdo some of the big events we've had in the last sort of year or two, wouldn't it? So, yeah, I don't know. I really like what Dana's done with the UFC. I just don't want to see it in boxing. My gut feel. But anyway, and I know boxing's not perfect, but that's sometimes what I like about it as well. All right, Scott Uni Music. Zuffa at present reminds me of the now defunct ESPN's Wednesday night fights and Tuesday night fights. Well, it's no different, Scott. That's all it is. And I keep comparing it to Pro Box TV because that's what it reminds me of. The whole presentation, the broadcast, the fights, everything, it just reminds me of Pro Box, just with a lot more money behind it. And that's about it. So, I don't know. I don't know what Dana thinks of boxing fans. I've just got a feeling he just thinks we're all out there just screaming for his model, and we're all a bunch of dumb shits who don't know what's best for us, and we see this as the savior. Does he really think what he's doing now is what boxing fans want? No, boxing fans don't want dull grey. I know these are only 1%ers. They don't want dull grey mats, and they don't want generic shorts or trunks and gloves, and they don't want generic fight posters and just generic boxing shows in general. They don't want that. Boxing fans, like everyone, want to be entertained. And UFC, I've got a feeling the UFC fans like a generic mold, I suppose, of how to put an event on. They almost like those generic posters and the way they're matched up, and generic sponsors and clothing and all that sort of stuff. UFC fans have been sort of raised on that. So it's almost they accept it and don't get too stressed about it. Boxing fans are a little bit different. Now, maybe obviously when fans like me sort of move on, then maybe that's what they're aiming for. But will Dana White even be around then? I doubt it. So I've just got a feeling he just thinks he knows best for us, but I just don't think he's done his research into what makes boxing fans tick. But just saying, well, how good are we? Look what we're doing. What are you doing? You've done nothing. They're just glorified little garage shows with good fights, well matched fights. But okay, I suppose that's a start. But where's the razzmatazz? Where's this taking boxing to a new level? I ain't seen shit so far. So anyway, I don't think they're even as good as the ESPN Fight Night, Scott. That's just my opinion. So anyway, no more Zuffa talk. All right, well, it's not my problem, mate. Just stop asking questions about it. Here's a change of subject. Any update on the Charlo news? Read the Zoo card. Is he a definite? Any closer to an Aussie opponent? Are you hearing anything in your circles? No, I'm not, Ali. As I said, mate, I just checked BoxRec and there's nothing there. All right. Evening all. I just finished watching Andrew versus Garcia. There you go. In Japanese on YouTube. Well, there you go. If you haven't seen it, guys, make sure you jump on and check it out. Garcia was coming on all night, but Andrew was moving so well and picked his targets well. Garcia was tough. Andrew was smarter. Yep, 100% there, Glenn. And there you go, guys. If you haven't seen it yet, jump on. I'm going to see if I can quickly find it as we're on here and see whether I can find it. All right, so Andrew Maloney. Hang on, who'd he fight? Garcia. Let's see if we can find the full fight here. It doesn't look like it. So you've done well there, Glenn, because nothing is coming up. A few little... no, that's not it. Full fight highlights. No, I can't see it. I'll have a little bit of a look later there, guys, and we'll see how we go. But good on you, Glenn. All right, Drew. Fair be it for me to mock a far more accomplished person than myself in Dana, but his Zuffa post-fight presser was extremely comical. He had a translator translating English to him due to his bad hearing. Is that right? I didn't see that. I just saw a few quotes of his on the socials. Actually, I didn't actually watch the whole thing sort of live or anything in full afterwards. Is that right? Translator. I didn't even know he had bad hearing. There you go. What do we got there, mate? You're famous. AI uses your walking talk May 30th. For what the addition of Charlo means for the card. Okay, there you go. Let us know a bit more about that, mate. So hang on. AI uses your walking talk for May 30th for what the addition of Charlo means for the card. Okay, well, I'll check it out, mate, but not quite sure what you're talking about there, but I will try and decipher it. All right, Drew, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe AJ or Fury or both want to tune up before they fight each other. We missed their fight in the primes. Given their experience, can they please just fight? Yeah, well, AJ's got the Christian Pringa fight in July, I think, Drew, and Fury's fighting in August. Now, apparently, Eddie Hearn knows the opponent, but he didn't drop the news to us, but he does know, apparently. He said Fury will win very easily, and they're going to fight in November. So I'm with you. They should have fought in the primes, but I think it'll be a repeat a little bit of Mayweather when he fought Pacquiao. I think as far as where they're at, won't be the same, but it'll still be a pretty good fight. Yes, Bill. Yes. Don't worry about the size. Andrew should be our national hero at the moment. I agree. What's that? Give me one Aussie boxer that was a national hero, Bill. Jeff Fennick, Mark. Jeff Fennick. Lionel Rose, Johnny Famechon, they were national heroes. Back in the day, I suppose fighters like Jeff Harding and they sort of they hit the mark a little bit, but not nationally. Jeff Horn, mate. When Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao, come on, mate. That's the most recent one, 9 years ago. George Kambosos was an unofficial national hero. He just didn't get the exposure. Jeff Horn did. Mark, thought you were a boxing fan, mate. 9 years ago, Jeff Horn. And before that, Jeff Fennick. And before that, I suppose if you classify Costa Tszyu, he was 100% an Aussie hero. Still stand by my thoughts on that. But, mate, there's been a lot of Aussies that have been national heroes. Don't worry about that. All right, Ali, what's your thoughts on Wanderer Promotions? I think Ricky and the team are building a solid promotion company based on 50-50 cards. and can hopefully keep building a strong audience. I really like Wanderer Ali. I think they've done some good things. The only problem I have with Wanderer, though, is the same as like Wildfighter and Dragonfire and all those other promoters. They don't have the platform, mate. I know Wanderer puts their promotions on streaming, one of the streaming apps, and sometimes some of the promoters will put it on ESPN or Disney or whatever it might be, but they don't get anything for that. They've got to pay all the broadcasting expenses themselves or the production costs themselves. They don't get anything from the companies or the channels. So that's obviously not feasible. They want premium quality, but they won't pay for it. This is the ESPNs and Disney's on the other channels and whatever else they've used over the journey. Excuse me. So my only concern, Ali, is how long is it all viable if they're just relying on sponsors and gate money. Yeah, it's a tough one. I wish him all the best. I've watched a couple of his shows and they're really good. They are 50-50 cards, just like Wildfighter puts on as well. I'm a big fan of Will Thomason and Wildfighter, but it's just not feasible if you have no TV support. It's just hard. You might be at a certain level, but it's very hard to go to that next level. And I've been there myself. I was at the level sort of where Ricky is, good solid cards, and we had lots of big names on them. But I was sort of stuck there until Dean Lonergan came in with the TV money, and then away we went. So I think we did 4 shows together, and one of them was the pay-per-view with Horns Arafa. But we had Jade Mitchell fight the former Russian world champion. We had Liam Wilson on one of the cards in Melbourne as well. So they were good cards, but it's only so much viability you can get without TV and TV money, more importantly. So most promoters can get their fights on TV, but as I said, you got to pay your own way, and it's not cheap, I can tell you. Sometimes those promotion or the production bills might cost you 50 or 60 grand, and if you're not getting anything back on that, that's tough. So there you go. Bill's got you covered there. Fennick, Rose, Leicester, Barry Michael, well done there, Bill. What's that? Isn't that beer you drink? No, mate. No, sorry. Is that what you're talking about? Sorry, no, it's a frosted glass, but it's cordial there, mate. That's all it is. It's not beer. It's just cordial. And then I switched to water after that. What's that there? They're all Australian boxing heroes, not national heroes. No, I was still disagree with Mark. They are national heroes. And look, it's hard to say back in the late 60s with Famo and Lionel Rose and even Jimmy Carruthers. But back then, mate, they were, especially Lionel Rose and Johnny Famechon, they were not just boxing heroes, they were national sporting heroes. Not even sporting, just national heroes. And then Jeff Fennick, mate. Well, looks at your profile photo there. You've been around a while as well. You would have seen Jeff Fennick back in the day, mate. He was a national hero, not just boxing, mate. And Jeff Horn, 100% as well. So I've got to disagree with you with that one. All right, Ali, if Dana cared about the fighters, the UFC would be paying their fighters more. Dana would be telling Jai he signed a contract, and that is the way it works. I'm hoping MVP disrupts the UFC model soon. Yeah, it's a good call too, Ali. I wouldn't mind seeing that myself, mate. What do you got here? National heroes are people like Weary Dunlop, Ben Robert Smith, all Aussie military personnel that have been in armed conflict. Let's keep it real. Well, it depends on how you define it, Mark. You didn't actually say national like heroes. I thought you were speaking about sporting heroes. And yeah, of course, those people are heroes, especially the military. But you got to be a little bit more specific, mate. Now, this is one I'd strongly disagree with. You'd be lucky if 15% of Aussies know the names. Mark. Come on, mate. Maybe 25% knew Jeff Fennick. Kostya wasn't Australian. Well, I agree with you on that one. But, mate, come on. When Fennick was around, mate, I'd put that at 90% of Australians knew exactly who Jeff Fennick was, mate. Might even be more. Fennick, and that's a pretty silly comment there. The catchphrase, I love yous all, that was used by everybody back in the day. And as I said, mate, you look like you've been around a while. Mate, 25% knew Jeff, mate. It was more like 90 that knew who Jeff Fennick was. He was a national treasure, not just a national hero. Remember? I love yous all. That was Jeff Fennick, mate. Come on. All right. I gave him $1. Thanks for your comments, by the way, Mark. I'm not trying to gang up on you there, but come on. Take a deep breath and think about it again. I think Dana should go back to UFC where he fits. He's done great there. Boxing doesn't need him, and it's his ego that's driving it now. Look, I think, yeah, to some extent, mate, but I think Turki Al Sheikh's obviously gone to him as well. Dana's obviously, he started in boxing. He wanted to be a boxing promoter and only went to UFC when he couldn't really make it in boxing, didn't really have the doors open for him. But now, and he's earned the opportunity, by the way. If Turki Al Sheikh was targeting someone, he's well and truly earned it. But my opinion with it all, I've said before, with this whole UFC type of boxing thing, if Turki wanted to get behind it and back this, why didn't he go to the existing promoters and maybe go down the ring route? I've talked about this before. Instead of having Zuffa, we had the ring. Made the ring belt the one, like, have the breakaway, that's what it's going to be, but it's all around the ring belt. It's got instant recognition and respect. And maybe go to the promoters and say, now, look, this is what I'm planning to do. We've got the ring belt, which is universally known as the belt. What I'm planning to do here is get all the promoters, not just one guy like Dana, especially he's not a boxing guy, to get all those promoters in there and say, look, this is going to be worth your while. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. We want all your fighters over, and we're going to cut out the sanctioning bodies. Now, as much as they all say they love him sometimes, especially Oscar, behind closed doors, they don't, because they're a real pain in the ass, the sanctioning bodies. So maybe if you went to him and said, my plan is to get the 4 or 5 biggest promoters in the world, the Oscars, Eddies, Franks, Bobs, and maybe PBC, Al Heyman, get them over and get them in on the action, but make the ring belt the belt. So not just that trophy belt. Let's face it, it is. Even though we see it as the belt, it's still a trophy belt, sort of under that UBC or UBO, whatever it is, things they've got. But to say, this is my plan. The ring belt is going to be the belt, and we're going to cut out the sanctioning bodies. But I need your help. I need you and your fighters to come over here and let's do it together and do it that way and have them all on board. I just think he's gone about it totally the wrong way by having Dana White with his little wish list of having this breakaway thing and having a UFC type of thing, because I just don't think it fits the boxing model with someone that's not really familiar with the way boxing works. And imagine if it was Oscar and Eddie and Frank and Bob and Al Heyman all came over, the attention and respect and I suppose faith in it that people would have if it was all based around those promoters under the banner of the ring belt being the belt, and all the other sanctioning bodies can just piss off, because then they would die. They would die. If all those champions under those promoters, if they all said, no, you can have your belt back, they would be gone in a month or two, wouldn't they? And if they said, we're all going to get the best to fight the best to be the ring champion, and then away we go. But then again, having said that, I suppose when you've got too many fingers in the pie, it all goes to shit anyway, doesn't it? They all want it done a certain way, and we end up where we are now. But anyway, we'll move on. Enough of that. Because I think is that Mr. Gentleman doesn't like talking about Zuffa. So, oh, well, not going to like this one. I've got a longer-term concern. Saudi and Turkey may get bored with boxing. If Zuffa doesn't get off the ground, you think it could go the way of Live Golf? 100% Ali. That is a concern, mate. That is a concern. When the Saudis pull out and we are left in a landscape where boxers expect inflated purses, but the economics of it does not add up. That will happen, Arlene. Probably for the first few years, it'll be hard for boxers to get their head around, but there's always something else coming through. They just charge more for pay-per-views and everything else. Everyone will adjust. Drew, I'm very frustrated at the questions after the latest Zuffa event. Aside from the obvious questions about the fights, nobody challenged Dana about the future of Zuffa and its pitfalls. Afraid of Dana. Yeah, I think so, Drew. I think Dana's the type of guy that if you're asked the wrong questions, no credentials for you going forward, I wouldn't have thought. That's the type of guy that he is. I saw it. I think someone mentioned last week, Sean. I called him Zittel, but it's Zittel, is it? Sean Zittel. I think I watched a couple of his videos. He was one of them at the press conference for Canelo and Crawford, and Dana did not like his line of questioning, and I wouldn't be surprised if old Sean hasn't been given a pass since. Okay, you put a link in, did you, Glenn? Okay, good stuff for Garcia and Andrew. All right, Ali, what are the all Aussie fights you would like to see by the end of the year? Looking forward to Hardman versus KO, even if it's bare knuckle. Yeah, that'll be a good fight. What fights would I like to see? All Aussie. All right, well, let's have a quick look. I could probably do a video for this, couldn't I? I'd like to see Terramona Jr. against, well, definitely obviously Stephen Ivic, but someone like a Joseph Goodall, I would, or yeah, probably someone Joseph Goodall. I know he hasn't been overly active, but Joseph is a good fighter. Would Big Joe? I don't know. I'll have to have a look, Ali. There's a few. It's probably hard to go through it now. We're running short on time anyway. I've spent too much time talking about Zuffa, if you ask, Mr. Gentleman. So I'll move on. I might look at a video for that anyway, mate, and bring it out this week. All right, out of the fights that never happened, which ones would you like to see most and least? Hopkins, Tony, Fraser Norton, Leonard Pryor, and Lewis Bowe. Well, out of those, I would love to have seen Hopkins and Tony, although I don't think it would have been the most exciting fight, but it would have been a great fight. If you're looking as far as action and everything, Fraser Norton would have to be one of those, and probably Lewis and Bowe, I would think. So if I had to pick two, it'd be Fraser Norton and Lewis and Bowe. Leonard Pryor would have been a hell of a fight as well, but you asked for the ones I'd like to see the most and least, but definitely Fraser Norton and Lewis Bowe. What's that? SSSM. The fact is, the fighters are asking for more money than the promoters can afford, and they make everything a pay-per-view when they don't make any numbers. Only a few should be on pay-per-view. AJ, Fury, and Canelo. Yeah, that's a good call. Yep. Not going to be the way going forward, though, mate. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Everything's a pay-per-view. When you got Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora being for a pay-per-view, I mean, geez, fair income. That shows where we're at. So, what do you got there, Bill? Night, guys. Thanks again. Even disagreements make it a fun night. In the words of a great man, love yous all. Well done, Bill. Well said, mate. And thanks for watching tonight, mate. All the best. Shadow Boxer, how do you think you would have done as a coach? Are you a patient person? Well, I was a coach there for a little while, Shadow Boxer, probably about it would have been about 12 or 13 years ago. I had a crack at coaching. I enjoyed it. Look, it's not easy, Shadow Box. I think you've got to be cut from a certain cloth to be a boxing coach. I must admit, I much preferred working with kids and sort of novices. I also really liked working with established fighters who just wanted some input. So as more of a consultant. So for instance, it might be someone who's already got a trainer, and the trainer who obviously knows about it and contacts, say, look, I wouldn't mind you working on the left hook or the body shots or whatever, and they'll send them over. I enjoyed that. It's a massive commitment being a coach. There's not a lot of return for it, unless it's money-wise I'm talking about. You tend to lose money on boxes, but I am a patient person, definitely. But I must admit I suppose it's the flaw, I suppose. Like, a lot of fighters that have become coaches that you sometimes, unfortunately, I'm guilty of it, you probably expect too much out of people as far as the commitment to the sport. And most of the time, especially if you've, gone to the Olympics and Commonwealth Games like I did, the amount of work you put in and the commitment and dedication you have to put into it. I mean, you live the sport. And then when you have fighters under your tutelage, I suppose, that don't have the same commitment, that can get very frustrating. And the expectations get too much and they end up dropping away and you have a bit of a fallout. So that's probably why I didn't really like coaching the fighters too much, because I'll admit I'm probably guilty of just asking too much, because I just put the same pressures on them as I put on myself. And unfortunately, sometimes not all fighters welcome that type of workload or work ethic, I suppose. And that was hard for me to get my head around. And if they didn't train as hard as I did, or commit themselves as much as I did, then I would get a little bit bent out of shape, and there might be a few disagreements. I must admit that. But yeah, I don't know, mate. As I said, I'm not really keen on coaching at all. I had probably 3 or 4 fighters that I had, might have been 5 or 6 even maybe over the journey, and and it's not really my cup of tea, mate. But I am patient to a degree. You put in and work hard and dedicate yourself, I'll be as patient as anybody. But if you don't, then I tend to get a little bit frustrated, mate. So, but normally, just in general, I am a patient person. Yes, I would say that. Big J, Is it just me, or does Zoo versus Spence taking too long to get its act together? No undercard nor venue announcement, plus Charlo been and gone. Yeah, well, every day I have someone send me a message, Big J, saying, do you know anything about it? Can you spill the beans? I have heard different sort of rumours and that sort of stuff, but nothing concrete, nothing definite. As I said before, mate, I've just got a feeling that the venue thing is obviously the thing that's holding it up. But geez, by now, 6 weeks out, wouldn't you thought they'd have it all done? I mean, with a venue, it's either available or it's not available. And they either want you to have it there or they don't want you to have it there. I've dealt with a lot of venues who just don't like boxing. So they just didn't want them there. So, but hang on, we haven't sort of done anything wrong. No, we just don't want it there. I remember actually at the Malvern Town Hall, when I was doing promotions with Peter Maniatis, and we had probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 shows that we did there. Peter's done a million shows there by himself, but we did about 7 or 8 together there. And one day, the Malvern Town Hall people were going to organise another event, and we went down to meet them. And they said, yeah, no, we've decided we don't want boxing here anymore. Why? Nothing's ever happened. We've never had fights or anything go on. No, we just don't like the image that having boxing here attracts. It's like, are you kidding me? So we were effectively kicked out of the Malvern Town Hall. So it did get a little bit hairy there for a little while once. When you remember had the shooting at the Melbourne Pavilion, yeah, that got a little bit hairy as far as some venues goes. But yeah, a lot of the venues, especially the council-owned ones, do not like boxing. They don't like what it represents. So, but anyway, I've got way off track there, haven't I? But as far as the announcement goes, I'd say that's what it is there, Big J, is that they're just putting the finishing touches on there. But wouldn't it be, okay, this is the date we want. Is it available? And they can either say, well, yep, that's fine, or no, there's something else there, so you need to take this date. Okay, we'll take that date. You think that'll take about half an hour to sort of talk through, and then, all right, how much are we looking at? That's, well, how much is it? Okay, well, it's either a yes or a no. That's how easy it was back in the day. So I don't know, but that's obviously the hold up there, Big J. But the thing is, too, didn't they like announce it like a month ago or even longer? And here we are, still no closer. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either, mate. Polly, Fennick and Rose were clearly national heroes. Everybody knows who they are. People not even in the boxing, 25%. Yeah, well, I just remember at the time, Jeff Fennick was just the man. He really was. And this is a guy too that, in the lead up to his fights, this is before internet and streaming services and pay TV and all that sort of stuff. And Jeff Fennick would have 15,000 people to his events when he fought in Melbourne, and they probably could have sold it out again after that. But 15,000, you couldn't get the fights at home, so you go to the pubs and clubs, and they were absolutely packed. You could not even move in nearly all the venues. In the lead up to it, all the talk shows, the morning shows, the news, just every single day. Jeff was on all of those talk shows, and I'll say even with football and cricket and everything else, that Jeff Fennick was the man. He was probably the highest profile sports person in Australia at that time. He really was. It was just the hottest ticket in town when Jeff Fennick was involved, and just everyone just could not stop talking about the Marrickville Mauler Jeff Fennick, and and I suppose the movie hopefully will show what was going on around those times. Shadowboxer, who did you coach? Probably no one you'd know. Shadowboxer, I had 4 seniors and a junior. So what's that? 5. So yeah, just local guys. Yeah, Mark says starting to look a little sus as well. Look, they've got to do it before the Liam Paro fight, don't they? Because what is that? Only about 3 or 2 weeks away, I think it is. 2 weeks from Wednesday. So you'd think they'd have to do it before then. They don't want to sort of get mixed up into it unless they announce the fight on that night. But still, why would you do that? It only gives people 4 weeks to get their shit together. So, yeah, I don't know. It is a little bit sus, Mark, but you would think that they've got their head around it, and it's just hopefully just something small, and they should be able to announce it very soon. I think they're still finding out who to put in with. Jamal might be 50 cal. Yeah, geez. I've heard a few people say that, according to them, it is going to be him, but I'd be surprised. I really would be surprised if it's 50 cal. I mean, I suppose on one hand, you've got the argument, well, gee, what would you put him in with him now? He's had, what, 7 or 8 fights. This doesn't make sense to throw him to the wolves with Jamal. But on the flip side, um, he's got the youth and talent and enthusiasm and everything else to be able to maybe go with Jamal. And the thing is, if he loses, he's only a kid. Plenty of time. They might have the opinion, oh, well, if he gets in there and gets beaten by Jamal, well, all right, we move on. It's not going to really hurt his career at all. It might put him back one step, but he'll be able to go forward after that. So, yeah, it's it's an interesting call. That will it be 50 cal? Look, I still think it's going to be Kyle Mazudia. That seems to be the word, that it's going to be him, which I still don't like because he's a 154 pounder going up to probably 168 unless Jamal comes in a little bit lighter. I would have thought Dylan Biggs might have been a good one for him, but I suppose, again, they don't really want to throw him in at this stage of his career. They've already done it with Nikita Zoo, and that didn't end well. They probably want to ride the wave a little bit more of this Grand Prix thing that he won. When's the last time he fought, by the way? Dylan Biggs. I don't think he's fought since then, has he? Let's have a quick look. Yep, any time now. Okay, no. Doesn't want to come up. All right, we won't worry about that then. Oh, no, there it is. Hang on. No. Jeez. All right, I'll give it one more attempt here. Then we'll move on. There he is. All right, so he last fought. Oh, yeah, in December. Okay. That was the Grand Prix. Okay, so that was December. So it's been 6 months since he's had a fight. So sure, it's not too far away. But I thought that would have made sense. But again, I can understand why they mightn't want to throw him to the wolves. Anyway, would be a fascinating fight, though, wouldn't it? If Callum Peters got in there with Jamal Charlo, that would be a ripper. I reckon 50 cal would give him all he could handle. I think it might still be a little early for him, but geez, that'd be a ripper fight, wouldn't it? Shadow Boxer, what got you into boxing as a kid? All right, geez, it's a bit of a Q&A tonight. Nothing in particular, Shadow Boxer. I've been asked that a lot over the journey. I had no one in my family that was a boxer. A lot of people have family members, grandparents or brothers and sisters or uncles or whatever it might have been. But I had nobody. I just wanted to be a fighter. As young as probably about 5 or 6 years of age, I wanted to be a boxer, and I still don't know why. My mum tried to hold me back. She didn't want me to be a fighter. Back then there was this real stigma about boxing. I suppose there still is to some extent, but no, you'll get brain damage. That old conversation. And she said, "Look, I'll make you a deal. If you wait till you're 10, I'll let you start then." So for the next sort of 3 or 4 years, I kept on her, and then the day I turned 10, I was able to go to the gym and start training. But nothing in particular, mate. I just love boxing. And no, it wasn't the Rocky movies or anything like that. It was just, I just love boxing for some reason. I just absolutely loved it. And it was a bit of a calling. And when I went there the first night, I never turned back 15 years later, and I was still going. So, all right. Too early for 50 cal to fight. Also, this isn't an undercard. Would be worth a separate pay-per-view in Australia. Yeah, that's a good call, Ali, but they're not after that for Jamal Charlo. I think what they've done is seen the opportunity and said, well, we've got the Spence and Zoo fight on, PBC fighter. We need to get him back. It's a big card. We'll put him there with a local guy. It'll be cheap and easy, and we'll just get that out the road. I think there's no way they bring Jamal Charlo out to fight Callum Peters in the standalone pay-per-view, mate. I wouldn't have thought. Unless the only thing they might do is like they did with Thurman when they were looking to match him up with Tim. They bring him out to fight someone like a Callum Peters with the intention of fighting someone like Tim Zoo after that. But that's probably the only thing. But no, it's worth a separate pay-per-view. But yeah, it's not the sort of fight I think they'd be after there, mate. So, Mark, 50 cal only fought real easy opponents so far. Even old Jamal would be far too much for him at the moment. No limit, not risking the next, hopefully, cash cow. Yeah, and that's a good call, Mark. Look, as I said, it doesn't make a lot of sense on paper, but again, he's young enough, talented enough. He'll probably come back from it, even if he gets beaten. I wouldn't like to see him maybe fight and get knocked out, though, because that could really derail him a lot. I'm not so sure Jamal will be able to knock him out, but I'm with you. He has fought pretty easy opposition so far, and as much as he's probably keen to get in there, I don't think it's a good call. Yeah, I think he should wait. Just resist the temptation and just go along with your career And then whatever happens, happens down the track. All right, maybe PBC is in trouble. They haven't had a good card this whole year. Benavides reportedly earned $8 million and Zerto did about $6 million. Rumours are they only did 100,000 pay-per-views and 7,000 tickets sold. Well, that would probably make sense. I did see that the tickets weren't a big seller there. Triple S. And the T-Mobile Arena holds about 20,000 people, so I think they sectioned off the top tier, but it still looked a little empty. Just trying to do the sums there. So they did, let's say the pay-per-view was, I don't know, $50, was it? And they got 100,000. That's $5 million, and they probably would have had another, if you look at 7,000 tickets, they probably, what did I say, 5,000. Average ticket was, I don't know, $250. That's, well, let's say even another $2 million. That's $7 million. And if they took $14 million between them, wow, it's a big loss, isn't it? Yeah, they are struggling by looks of things to keep the fighters busy. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if PBC goes under at some stage. And Al Heyman, he was the guru there for a while, wasn't he? But he doesn't really get that same respect anymore, does he, Al Heyman? Used to be the only guy that everyone used to talk about as far as being the professor of boxing, and this is, I suppose, proof that it hasn't really worked out the way that it was expected to. All right, Glenn, have you heard anything about the fallout with Tim and his previous management? We heard about Tim versus Glenn Jennings being sorted, but must be a reckoning for Tim versus his last management. No, I haven't, Glenn. And I suppose I could probably call Mike Altamura and ask for an update. But yeah, obviously the Tim and Glenn Jennings thing has been sorted. Not so sure. Well, maybe there wasn't a contract in place with his Uncle Igor and everyone else. Maybe it was just a fight-by-fight thing. Maybe a handshake agreement. But yeah, the Mike Altamura and Darcy Ellis management, yeah, I don't know anything, Glenn. I'm not the sort of thing I'm going to go out of my way and ring Mike and say, hey, can you give us an update? It's not going to tell me anyway, I wouldn't have thought. But yeah, there'll be a reckoning, mate, because at the end of the day, Mike especially was a massive part in getting the Errol Spence fight signed. So he's going to want his pound of flesh. He's going to want to get paid. I don't blame him. So it would have been a pretty complex type of thing to get sort of sorted. He did it, and then he was given the spear. So yeah, I think, again, I don't know anything, but my guess would be 100% that Mike Altamura and Darcy Ellis will be asking for the remuneration. All right, Drew. In the pay-per-view era, Jeff Bennett would have been brushing his teeth with champagne and throwing bundles of cash into his fireplace to keep his house warm. Yeah. He told me, though, he never, like, in comparison to these days, obviously he got paid peanuts. He told me, and I think his biggest payday, I might get it wrong, I shouldn't say. I'm pretty sure it was about $1 million. I think that would have been probably the Zuma Nelson second fight, I reckon. But 30 years ago, 35 years ago, whatever it was, that would have been a lot of money, a shitload of money. But I reckon he would have had a little bit of a parade of young women towing along as well there, Drew. I think Jeff's always liked the opposite sex, hasn't he? But yeah, look, he earned it, and look, he's even admitted to me that he got ahead of himself when he was at his peak, and that's why Azuma Nelson was able to beat him the second time. He said he just didn't take that fight seriously. I think obviously Azuma Nelson had something to do with that as well. He turned up switched on, but he was the man, as I said, mate. He was the man. And the best of everything. And he's still, look, the good thing about Jeff I like now is he's still, one, got his faculties because he was in a lot of wars over the journey, but also he's still financially viable or capable, whatever you might want to call it. He's still very viable, very financially independent, goes overseas all the time, doesn't need to work, and I think that's great. He's obviously invested his money properly. Ali, what is Hass Hamden doing? Is his suspension over? Surprised he hasn't been elevated on a world stage with his talent. Well, he was in the Grand Prix, wasn't he? So that's probably his fight, wasn't it? Is it Hassam Hamden? Is it? Hang on, let's have a look. Yeah. All right, so his last fight. So he's 10-0, 3 knockouts. His last fight, was in April last year. That's gone quick, hasn't it? And he actually won that fight. and then hasn't fought since, which is unusual. I would have thought they would have got him some fights in Thailand or go overseas for fights. I don't think there's any suspension on him overseas. It's only in Australia. So, and if anything, it must be very, very close to being up. His last fight, where was it? In Australia, was in October of 2023. So he's still got about another 4 or 5 months to go, I would think, because he got a 3-year ban. So it'll be the end of this year there, Ali. And he's had 2 fights in Thailand, both first round knockouts. So that probably tells you a lot. And then he had that 1 fight in Riyadh for the WBC Grand Prix, which he won, and then tore the bicep and hasn't been seen since. That's 14 months ago. So, yeah, let's hope he's back soon. All right, Triple S. If Charlo comes into the card, everyone else on the undercard might as well fight for a carton of beers. Yeah, I agree, mate. You'd think he'd want, a couple of $100,000 US. You would think. So yeah, it's going to absorb that purse. What do you call it? The purse budget pretty quickly. All right, Scott Fennick is definitely a national hero in my time. My favourite boxer. Back in the days when boxing was on free-to-air TV. Yes, Scott, as I said before, mate, 1995, April, whatever it was, Jeff Fennick against Satoshi Shingaki on Channel 9, followed by Lester Alice and Rod Sequenin on Channel 7. How good was that? Unbelievable. What was the gym you trained out of? I trained out of the Bendigo, what's called the Bendigo Amateur Boxing Gym back in the day. Bendigo Amateur Boxing Club back in the day, Shadow Boxer. And I think they renamed it years later to the Vinton Street Gym. Nofo, Charlo will smash Peters. Yeah, let's hope we don't get to see that Nofo. I don't want to. I mean, I'm a big fan of Callum Peters, but yeah, I wouldn't mind if he just let this one go. I think he's a little bit early, but we'll see. All right, Drew, it's really hard to envision the next crossover star post Canelo. It's hard to find a genuine candidate, not just a genuine candidate, not just a candidate. I suppose in a way it's always sort of been restricted because being Japanese, not speaking English, and not obviously being a star in the States amongst just regular fans over there. David Benavides might be close, I suppose. Shakur Stevenson. Yeah, it's a tough one though, Drew. There's not really anyone, is there? Yeah, I'm with you there. When and why did Lou DiBella leave boxing? I don't know why, but he left. I think his last show was probably 5 or 6 years ago, Ali. I'm not quite sure. What's that, Sean? Hey, can you give my wife Amanda a shout out? She's Neil's #1 fan, and she's had a rotten day and needs cheering up. We'll cheer up, Amanda. All's not lost. And if I had Neil here, I'd pick him up and get him to say the same thing or bark the same thing. But no, it's as they always say, it's never as good as it seems, but it's also not as bad as it seems. All right, so tomorrow's another day. So chin up and all the best for tomorrow. All right, Fennick and Zoo fights were so packed in the pubs we had to buy long neck bottles of beer. Well, that's what it was like, Polly. It really was. I remember, same as when Tyson fought. You go to the pubs and it was just packed. You just could not move, especially for Jeff Fennick fights. And then even later, when Anthony Mundine and Danny Green were at the peak, that's probably the closest I've seen as well. It was always packed when they fought as well. But it's just a different time now. And we had Foxtel on at the pub, and we tried to put the big fights on, and the most we ever got was probably about 30 people. That was about it. That was for a Tim Tszyu fight, a couple of Nikita fights maybe. But apart from that, no one turned up. People just couldn't be bothered. Especially when they've got them on a Wednesday night, especially in like the middle of winter or something on a Wednesday night, and you've got to go out to a pub and people just can't be bothered. They just stay at home, put it on, grab a feed and have a few beers and have the mates over. And that's even if they have the mates over. I know people just sit at home and watch it by themselves. So definitely different times there, Polly. Drew, not only those fights, but also I remember Tyson Holyfield being standing room only in a huge RSL. I had to turn up hours earlier to get a seat. The same following no long resist. No, it doesn't, Drew. That's what I just said. Like, it's just different. Like, when I think I've said on here in the past, when we had Nikita's last fight on, actually it was Tim's last fight. It was on a Sunday, and it was who did he fight? The last bloke he fought, Tim Zoo. Yeah, he's that good. I can't remember his name. And we literally had 4 people turn up, and we had another 2 or 3 3 people turn up halfway through the fight, and that is no joke. Yep. So free for everyone to come and watch. I promoted it, and no one turned up. So that was the decision was then made that we're getting rid of Foxtel. We just don't need it. So I'm not going to put fights on and pay $800 for a fight on a Sunday, where even the crowd that comes in will have a can of soft drink and maybe a packet of chips or something, and that's about it. So you're not making anything out of it. And probably no coincidence, it's very hard to find the fights these days. Sporting Globe's probably the only one around that consistently does it because they have to. The Sporting Globe. I mean, you can't call yourself the Sporting Globe and not show the big fights, can you? So, Triple S, sorry, doesn't agree. David, he says Benavidez is PBC's last great hope in American boxing. Until he fights and beats Bivol, Beterbiev, or Jai, he won't gain the respect of real boxing fans. Yeah, good point there, mate. Very good point. Nicotine, Charlo, Tim Zoo card. You spoke about what he brings to the card. AI is putting you up as the go-to for anyone wanting an answer to that question. You spoke about it May 30th. Well, there you go. So if I put into AI, what does Jamal Charlo bring to the card? My quote comes up, does it? That is crazy. Oh, there you go. I'm going to have to look that up after this. That is crazy. So I am famous. Thank you, mate. Mark. Still not national heroes. Australian boxing fan heroes are saying, nah, Mark, sorry, mate. I still don't agree. They were national heroes. I understand what you're saying about with sporting heroes or just heroes in general. You didn't sort of specify, but if Australian sporting heroes, then don't go any further than Jeff Fennick, mate. He was one of the biggest, I can tell you that. So, all right, Ali, what's that? Thanks for the show. I've been missing the live. I've been watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify since I can't get time for the live shows. No, that's all good, mate. Well, I think we're a couple of minutes early, but I think, hang on, we've got a couple more coming through. Drew says Ozboxing needs to get back to its back itself. Sorry, Ozboxing needs to back itself to fight pay-per-views on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. These Wednesday night fights are horrible for people like me who need to work the next day. Back yourself against the footy codes. Yeah, I'm with you there, Drew, and I've said that all along. I mean, I understand why they do it, because they don't want to take on the rugby league and AFL codes, and whether it's cricket or basketball, whatever's on those particular nights. So they take the easy way out and put it on a Wednesday night. And you're right, people don't want to have those late nights. And it's one thing to have them on a Wednesday night, but they have the main event on at 10:30, 11 o'clock, which is ridiculous. And again, I'll say it, I've said it 100 times. If you're going to have it on, make it so your main event is on at sort of 9 to 9:30. You time it, and then you work your way back with the rounds of the undercard. And even if you start the card at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, who cares? But the main telecast starts at 6 o'clock, not 7, 6 o'clock. And the main event comes on at 9 o'clock, or worst case 9:30, and that is it. But no, they just say, oh, we're going to start it at 7 o'clock, and then they put 50 rounds on, and they wonder why everyone's getting pissed off that they're up until midnight. So it's not that hard. If they actually did the research and looked at what they do in America, who have the main event at sort of 9 o'clock, sometimes it's earlier because of the East Coast and West Coast thing. New York, they don't want to 3 hours further in time. They don't want to have it too late, or else the fights are on at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. So they'll start at maybe even at 8 o'clock. So the main event on the East Coast is on at 11. But it's not that hard. But I'm with you. Back yourselves. Like over. That's what I was sort of trying to get at. Sorry. Over in the States, they have baseball and football and hockey and basketball all on the same nights, nearly every single day of the week. And they still put the pay-per-views on a Friday or Saturday night. That's just what they do. And they back themselves and they pack it out. They sell shitloads of pay-per-views. People will make their minds up. Let's just say it's rugby league on a Saturday night, or AFL. You put the fight on. The fight fans will watch the boxing. Yeah, they might have their phone sort of like this, sort of keeping track of the, of the football, but they'll still be watching the main fight. It doesn't affect it at all. So yeah, I'm staggered why they don't do it, mate. So I'm with you. Back yourself. If the product's good enough, they will watch. Mike from Melbourne. How confident are you Paro gets a win against Crocker? He really struggled with Papo. Can you advise which kennel Neil came from? Thanks, Mike. Yeah, no worries, mate. Well, I'm not confident at all with Paro against Crocker. I think Crocker is a very, very good fighter. I'm slightly leaning towards Paro because it's the home ground advantage, if you want to call it that, hometown advantage. And he did struggle with Papo. Crocker is a good fighter. I'm going to stick with Paro but it's a tough one, mate. That's for sure. The kennel I got Neil, where I got him from, Mike, was from a rescue page. It's a Facebook page if you want to check it out. It's Minnie's Bulldog Rescue. Okay, it's in Victoria though. I think they do have dogs interstate, but it's Minnie's Bulldog Rescue on Facebook, and they have all the dogs on there. They're always after donations and obviously people to adopt and foster and all that sort of stuff. And best thing you'll ever do, Mike, I promise you. All right, couple more comments and we're done. I didn't see this, Baku. Sorry, mate. Thoughts on Albert Ramirez, the Rowan Richards decision? I'm sorry, mate. There's a lot going on over the weekend. I didn't see it, mate. But if I get a chance, I'll check it out. But sorry, mate, I didn't see it. All right, Scott. Got to the pub for Costa versus Judah at start of the card. When the main event started, it was packed. Same for Lennox Lewis, Tyson fights, etc. Yeah, they were the good old days, Scott. That is for sure. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Make sure you check out Walking Boxing every single morning. It's usually up by about 11:30. Worst case, most days, depending on my upload speed. And plenty of other stuff I've got coming up that I'm looking to launch soon when I get more of an opportunity. So, guys, have an awesome week. Thanks again for watching Boxing Deep Dive. This is Talking Boxing. We'll catch you next week. Thanks, guys.